All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Node API meeting for May 12th, 2023. Before we go through our normal agenda, does anybody have any announcements they would like to make? No? All right. Then let's me share my screen and we will go with the milestones. Okay, so the first one that we have is drive towards full coverage. Jack, do you have any updates there?
Yeah, so I took a stab at trying to add some test coverage using the gcover tool. Played around with it a little bit, and I noticed that we have a few different sort of binaries we built with different different compiler flags enabled. So I think it's a little bit tricky, but I think what I'm getting is that on the binding binary, we are achieving test coverage of around 94%, but gcover goes by the lines of code executed. So there's some error handling path soon it's not taking. So that's why we're probably not getting 100% coverage. And yeah, just trying to look more into it. But some of those paths are a little bit more harder to recreate, I assume. It's like, but yeah. Just keep digging
Okay. What operating system are you using when you're using this?
Yeah, so I'm just testing this on Ubuntu for now, but I
Okay.
think later on I have to probably test this on Windows as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I tried running it on a Mac and
Yeah.
did not work as I expected.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll
that makes
probably
sense.
I have a Mac machine as well, so I'll probably make sure it works on there too.
Okay. Then regarding the test for async progress queue worker, I took a look at this,
Okay.
and I know that it's similar to the previous PR,
Mhm.
but I had a little bit of time to actually review this one.
Okay.
So I made some comments here.
Sure.
One thing, there's a bunch of places where you have must call and you pass this.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no need to pass that. That's a small
Okay.
little pick.
Cool.
Then there's a couple of places, because I think you added three
Mhm.
functions for running the binding function.
Yeah.
Um, where can we open this up so that we can see a little better? Yes, where you have the assertion, and
Right.
then if this fails, then that
Mhm.
you have this must not call and resolve.
Yeah.
But I
Mhm.
think this is a little backwards. This resolve should be inside of this hook callback, and
Mhm.
catch should be the reject for this promise.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because one thing then, like what I tried testing with your
Mhm.
code by changing this method, this event name, and it
Mhm.
just says the error of function should not have been called
I
because it's
see.
calling this, right?
Mhm.
But when you replace it with the reject, then you'll actually get the assertion error.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I'll make those changes.
Yep. Okay, then anything else you would like to discuss regarding tests or anything?
I think I'm good for that part. Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
yep, then that's that. Did Nick end up joining? No? Okay. Then, because this is a task that he's been working on, so we'll just get an update from him next week. Enable debug testing, that's something Michael's working on. I don't think there's been any progress. We'll come back to still issues. Improve open SFS scorecard. Yes, this is regarding that pull request. This one here. I have not had any time to look at this. Has anybody else had any time to review? I remember the last thing that we saw was that some of the builds were failing because it couldn't find how to build the code. Um, so No, I think I should have some free time, so I'll assign this one to myself. And I'll take a look at this. And I'll say here, I'll take a look at why the builds are failing. Okay. Then let's talk about the stale issues. I don't think there's anything new to really discuss. This one was still sort of blocked by the feature bits. Is there any discussions that we would like to have regarding the feature bits implementation?
I just sent like hour ago like a new PR, which makes this an API ref to be for all value types to be experimental, and also updated documentation. So technically, it was a blocker for us to cut new version of Node API. Sorry, it took me a while to get it.
This one here?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it should unblock change on start to work on the new Node API version after this one is merged. So please review.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in the process of reviewing. There's just one little thing for the documentation. Do you think you could move things that are like version specific into like a section that follows the documentation, so we don't mix? Because you're saying like in experimental Node API version references can be created for any value, right? Which is true, but maybe we should have like a section afterwards that says, you know, change history in experimental this, in version 8 and lower that, you know, because if we introduce more changes, this discussion is going to become like spaghetti, right? Because it's like, you know, in version 9 it's like this, in version 8 it's like that, you know. And so if we just have one paragraph which covers all the versions, that might get confusing. But yeah, it's just a proposal. Whatever you think is best.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought, because I mean, it's not likely to happen, but what if we do change this behavior in the future also for a later experimental version? Then we'd have to, you know, modify this or whatever. So it would
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if there's some a different way that we can present this information, that would be good.
Yeah, I'll have a comment for that in a second.
Okay.
I think ideally we should always talk about this latest and greatest version. And I agree with you that probably all this experimental stuff should be probably somewhere.
Yeah, in practice, for other Node.js APIs, we have a changes table, which documents all the change history for a specific API and their behaviors. So, but I'm not sure its format can apply to Node API as well. Yeah, it's in the YAML metadata of the maybe Kevin, would you mind scrolling down a bit? Yeah, you can see the metadata between the API and the definition. Yeah, probably we can not in this PR. We can add it later. That we can add a changes table, changes history to the API metadata, and document the difference between versions. And we can always document the latest behavior in the
body of the documentation.
Yeah, in the body of the yeah.
So
exactly.
well, but then I don't know that I want to land these changes, right? Because this talks about like in the experimental version, then maybe just rephrase this to always show the latest and greatest. But then we don't want to lose the text. Like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe we should make these changes in this PR. Like put the, so change the documentation to say this is what it does and it works for every variable type. But then, add the version history now, because either we're going to have like more complicated main documentation text, or we're going to lose the idea that what happened earlier. So I think we should do this on this PR.
I agree.
Yeah, if the change is made in the documentation body, then I think it's fine. But I'm not sure if the metadata can be and changes to the metadata can be recognized by the documentation tools of the website. So
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
why
I'm not sure about that either. Yeah, that's why I was saying let's have like a section at the bottom that says like change history, and if we can later incorporate that into the metadata, all the better. But let's have the latest and greatest. Okay, that's a great point. Okay, let's have the latest and greatest be the documentation, and then in change history we will flip it around and we'll say version 8 and below, only these types are supported.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. We can add it in the body first, and then when we make sure the metadata can be correctly recognized, we can move the section to the metadata.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, yeah, I'll rephrase my comment then. All right, thanks.
I have a question. Why do we want to put it in the body and not in the metadata?
I'm not, because we are not sure the tooling of the documentation can recognize the metadata, since
So we know. Yeah, we know YAML can say added in this version, but does it have tooling for recognizing changed in this version and changed how? Like, does it have the tools to pick up those bits of text and format them specially and all that? We don't know. So what we do know for sure is that if you do it yourself in the body of the documentation, you separate out the old behavior and you point out that this is old behavior, then for the time being, the documentation is going to be nice and clean. It's going to have the latest and greatest behavior as if it had never had the old behavior. And then as a footnote, it's going to have the old behavior. And so it's going to be nice and separate. Later on, as a follow-up PR, we can move the old behavior into the YAML if we learn or implement that it supports this kind of structuring. So we can make this as a follow-up.
Okay. Does that make sense?
I just want to kind of clarify a bit about what we call latest behavior. Should we call experimental to be latest behavior, or
yes,
experimental?
Yes. Yeah. So, because think about it, anybody who writes an add-on from scratch today, or anybody who has an API experimental in their C preprocessor flags, this is the behavior they're going to get, right? So right. you have to explicitly opt into an API version 8 in order to get the old behavior, right? So people who are just writing modules, this is what they're going to get, right?
Yeah, but we decided like even version 9 is going to not going to have this behavior, right? Okay. So what?
Yeah, but
what I'm hearing,
I think you're making a good point, right? Because for experimental, you have to actually define an API experimental. You don't get that by default. You get the stable version by default, correct?
Right.
Okay. Then maybe the latest and greatest behavior is version 8, and then we should put experimental into the change history for now, and then we'll move it to the main body when it becomes stable. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, okay, yeah, good point.
Okay, does that make sense for any of the changes requested?
So should I change the wording, like us, not to say that currently we're doing this, but in experiment do this? I just simply completely need to kind of remove this paragraph about differentiating them and moving experimental behavior somewhere like towards the end. Is correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So separate out, like make a note saying experimental. If you specify an API, if you build with an API experimental, then you're going to be able to do this. So that's why I was thinking like have like a change history section underneath, and then you have like a bullet that says experimental, and then supports all types, not just blah blah blah. And that's it. We only have one bullet for now, but we're going to have more bullets in the future, presumably. And when we release an API version 9, we're going to change that experimental : supports all types to version 9 : supports all types.
Right.
So that's going to be part of the release process, is to go through we have to go through the documentation anyway for the release process.
Okay.
And Gabe, you said that you're going to post a comment too, right?
Yes. I'm actually formulating it as we speak.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. Then anything else to discuss regarding the feature bits implementation? No. Okay. Then let's continue. Then this one here. This one was documenting the order of unloading. I see, yes. And then Gabe, you were mentioning a bunch of things regarding a lot of paths need to have this swallow unthrowable exceptions, right? Was there anything that came out of this?
Yes. So I think the PR ended up merging the Node add-on API PR that I wrote. There was really only one path, but there could be, I'm not sure, but one for sure. And that has, I think, landed. I'm not 100% sure. Let me double check. But either way, so the example that I wish to write that shows how to use a thread safe function from object wrap, I think is going to need to wait for a release of Node add-on API, which includes this change, so that when I publish the example doesn't crash on people because it's missing this change. So when we have a release of Node add-on API, I can then post the example of how to use it and anymore.
Okay, that sounds good. Then I think that is it for the stale issues. Are there any PRs that anybody would like to bring up? I did see, Changdong, that you had one for documenting the release process.
Yeah. I think when we landed Vladimir's change on the documentation format, we'll have to update one section in this document about the documentation version change as well. So it's the step 4. Yeah, that's it. So we have to add a new step to update the behavior change. Currently, this section only includes the tagging tagging Node-API functions to be released in a specific version. So yeah, we'll wait Vladimir's PR to land first and update these steps. And will make a release afterwards.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, I did take a quick look through it. It all made sense. I'll take another look at it after this meeting, more in depth. But I do see that it was already approved by one person here. So anybody else on the team, if you have a chance to take a look at that, that'd be great. Okay, then that's it for the stale issues. Does anybody else have any other PRs they would like to discuss before we go and move on to, looking at open issues? No? Okay. Then let us look at the issues here. This one was added. We can update our CIs. Okay, yeah, but nothing new. This one here is a documentation oversight. I think this would be a good first issue for somebody. We'll see if somebody wants to tackle that one. Gabe, I know you've been working on a lot there's been this issue with reloading Electron a couple of times. I think this Candy Long user has created a couple of issues, and I think you've been helping them with some of them. Does that sound familiar? Or
Vaguely, but I'm not 100% sure. Sorry, I've kind of lost the context on that one.
Yes.
Okay. Oh
yeah.
I just tried the demo and couldn't reproduce it. Yeah. I can try again. I'll pick it back up. But I don't think they've answered, right? Mine was the last.
Yeah, they haven't answered. I remember there was just like this user made a bunch of issues in a row for a bunch of like problems with thread safe functions and reloading and context aware and whatnot. And it just popped in my head again while I was looking at the issues, and I remember that you were kind of working with it, but yeah, they didn't respond yet. So okay, then let's see. Wow, we already went through the pull requests on Node.API. So here we just have those two, and we reviewed those. Is that not? Oh, you just for. Oh, okay. Let's do that. Is issue that's I did. Okay. And Gabe, you created this one a couple of weeks ago, and we did talk about this. And I think this would be solved by this one. Yes. Okay. Well, and that is it for new issues. Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Okay, well then everybody will get 30 minutes back for your Friday, and I will catch everybody online and see you all next week.